Hot take, 0 dark 30, Saturday morning. I had something else that was going to go this week, and it can go next week. It's not that big of a deal. This is, I think, a little more pressing, a little more poignant, a little more just timely. Didn't have it this morning at the gym. And it made me think about a lot of times in the field when I didn't have it. And sometimes you notice you're trending this way and you don't want to admit it. You don't want to tell yourself, let alone your manager, your colleagues, that you're just not feeling right. You just don't have it. And actually had a couple people recently ask me, hey, Jeff, what do you do when you're just out of sorts? Should I be in the field? Should I keep going? Do I power through this? Do I, whatever? You don't want this to turn into a slump is the point. And I want to be very clear, because I got some great advice early in my career, but I want to be very clear. I'm not afraid that I'm going to screw anything up. When I'm in the field and I just don't feel like I have it, I know that less than my best is still effective. So I'm not worried about screwing anything up. And I don't think you should be worried about screwing anything up either. I think you got to work really hard to actually screw something up. But I think you also have to be cognizant of your own abilities, and you have to be cognizant of your own stamina, and you have to be cognizant that, well, in this case, it's February 3rd right now, and there's a long year ahead of us. Maybe you got a little overzealous with your New Year's resolution. Maybe you have a sales goal that you got all fired up to hit coming out of the holiday break, and you just got after it, and you're realizing that pace might be a little too much to keep up for the long haul. Maybe you're fighting with yourself about some David Goggins voice in your head that tells you that you are more capable than anything you could possibly imagine. And if you could only think it, if you could only dream it, then you could only achieve it. And there's some conflict there because you have that voice in your head and you also have that feeling in your belly that says, dude, this might be a little too much for you right now. You have to step back. You have to keep the perspective of the bigger picture in mind. You have to remember that you're here to do this for the long haul, and that even in short sprints, there are times when you need to modulate your efforts so that you can stay consistent. Sometimes that means, like I did this morning, I just shifted my expectations and still got my work done. Sometimes it means that, hey, you're in way over your skis and the best thing for you is to take time out, go back home, put your feet up, try to get some kind of reset. And sometimes it means that you do need to power through. If you're less tenured in your sales career, I would A/B test some of that. I would go home in the middle of the day if I were you feeling this way. And I would suggest that, hey, maybe what I need is a rest to reset. And then the next time you feel like this, because inevitably you will feel like this again, try something different. Maybe don't make the extra call, but make sure you finish your day. And then another time, you might consider powering through. What I can tell over, almost 20 years of doing this is that I have a pretty good feeling for what I need. I have a pretty good understanding of what it's going to take. And I have a pretty good understanding of when I'm just dogging it because I don't feel good and I need to kick my own ass and keep going. And I also know, after almost 20 years of doing this, that sometimes, I've been getting after it pretty hard. I need to mind my own ability to stay consistent over the long haul. And maybe it's time to throttle back from a 5-minute mile pace to a 6-minute mile pace. These are the things that you're going to figure out on your own. But you have to give yourself the permission to try them. You also have to give yourself the permission to be mindful, to know yourself, to know your capabilities, and understand, like I said, that entire big picture perspective. The sales game is a marathon, not a sprint. And I know world-class marathoners still run 4-minute miles these days, which is just mind-boggling to me. But world-class marathoners are still running 4-minute miles. But you know what? That pace isn't always consistent every single time. There are ebbs, there are flows, there are ups, there are downs. There are times when you are going to feel better than you feel right now, and you're going to want to put down the accelerator. You need to be aware of what you need in order to be able to put down that accelerator when you need to. And sometimes that means throttling back when you recognize you just don't have it. Try to disengage from your ego here. Recognize those times. And the more you pay attention to them, particularly early in your career, the better you will be able to handle them later in your career when it really matters. Thanks for taking this time out with me. Video quality is not great. It's not supposed to be great. It's a hot take. This is me in the moment, sharing with you in real time what this is like. Because every single one of you watching this at one time or another has been here. It's okay to be here. What are you going to do about it? And ultimately mind your ability to stay consistent as possible for as long as possible. You know the right thing to do. I'm going to give you permission to do it. And I'll be back with my regularly scheduled programming next week. Cheers.